drone detection team, and we are sponsored by the United States Air Force. Our challenge is to passively detect and physically disrupt the threat of drones. That's in guidance with the U.S. Air and Space regulations. And in terms of physically disrupting it, it's just to destroy the aircraft in flight or to disable its ability to maintain lift. And the purpose of it is to protect dismounted troops from UAS threats. My name's Anna Rose, and I'm a nursing major.
I'm Jack O'Neill, intelligence analysis major.
Matthew Boyce-Kofed, engineering major.
David Swain, CS major.
Blaney, writing, rhetoric, and technical communication major.
So to give a scenario of where this would be used is there's a location somewhere in the United States where it is attended infrequently here and there by U.S. Air Force Nuclear Weapons Center personnel. When they are there, they want to have some mechanism that is able to be to detect UAVs from a certain distance out, which we're trying to kind of clarify, basically as far as you can. And then when it is able to detect them, sends out a counter mechanism that takes it out and ideally doesn't necessarily destroy it, but is able to capture it so they can retrieve data and also just retrieve the drone itself. So when we started this week, we wanted to address a few things. The issue of swarms, what the viability of using a jammer is, and if that's necessary, and also address our initial MVP concept. So speaking of swarms with our client, they said that while this is an emerging concept of what drones can be used for, this is not our initial focus, and this will come later down the road. They're focused on a singular drone that's looking to conduct surveillance or drop a payload that could injure the personnel or the facility that they're operating at. We narrowed down some technology as far as our MVP goes, verified that we can lock in with radar with our counter mechanism, and we are looking at jamming will actually be required in the final solution to hold the drone in place in order to take it down. And the net option attached to our counter drone was they really showed a lot of they were very pleased with that approach.
So how our mission model canvas has changed this week. Under our key activities, we've now added jamming. This is so that we can increase the accuracy with which we take down the drones. I'll talk more to that later. Under our key resources, we've added automated drone technology. This is something that we were already considering, but we hadn't added it to our canvas yet. Additionally, along the same lines, turns to attack. That's something that we had been considering. That's under value propositions, but we have just now added it to the canvas. Another important thing under mission achievements, the tracking part has been taken away out of detect and track on mini drones because that is not necessary to have mission achievement. It was just necessary for our solution to work. And also, we need to specify a minimum range for both of those activities, for it to detect the drone and for it to take it out to so that we can gauge whether our mission has been achieved.
All right, the pains, gains, and jobs are taken from all of our beneficiaries so far. They're all pretty common problems and things we need to solve. For the pains, there's no perfect way to stop enemy drones, and that's what we're dealing with the whole project. But we've been finding out more and more that there is no perfect technology to do even just one thing, even just to detect it or to take it down, which is why, as Jack mentioned earlier, and we're going to talk about in a second, we have narrowed down our technology. We were first starting to just pile on all the technology we thought might help us, but that could actually get in the way or just not do much for us. So we, basically with our pains, we have to figure out what will work best for us, not work perfectly. Other pains, the enemy technology is advancing quickly, and we don't want to put anyone else in harm. Gains, pretty much all the gains here could be solved by making an automated system, which is what we're focused on the entire time. And then another gain that they would like is that it would be cheaper, but that is not their main focus. And then for jobs, most importantly, protect the specific base, and then, of course, protect the nation.
So the minimum viable product for this week is we did LiDAR, thermal cameras, and a few other sensors. And we have narrowed it down to radar and radio frequency sensors. With the last presentation, we know that radio frequency sensors aren't always 100% accurate. That's why we also have radar. That way we can detect a flying object in the sky. And we can go in with radio frequency and say, yes, that's either a hawk, we don't have to worry about that, or that's a drone, and we have to worry about that. And then radio frequency sensors confirms whether it's a drone or not, like I just said. Jamming device, text drone, we are still unspecified about that, but our sponsors have said that they would like a jamming possibility on our device. And then takedown is, so we detect it with the radar, we get a approximate GPS location of it, probably from about 10 to 30 feet. Then we send our counter drone up to it with a net that is floated up or hanging below the drone. And then when we get within about 30 feet of the enemy drone, we use a IR-enabled camera to lock in on this precise location of the enemy drone and can go in and capture the enemy drone in the net and bring it back for information recovery and data recovery from it.
It'll also have an option to drop the net off with the drone, and if it's carrying explosives or something, it doesn't want to bring it back to base.
So in our next steps, as we said, we're still unsure with the whole jamming, so we just want to clarify what would be the best, whether it be RF or GPS, and just continue researching it. And we'd like to define the minimum range for stopping and controlling the movement of drones.
And as far as our MVP goes, we got a lot of really good feedback today from our sponsors saying, you guys are really tracking. This is very exciting, and we're liking where you're going with this. They were very fond of the net idea. The biggest thing that they want us to focus on was a way to try to pause it in midair to make your countermeasure more effective, and then also to look at, while RF is great, you also need to be careful that when there's different frequencies, how to address that. So as we are moving forward, there's still things that we need to kind of go back and validate. That's it.
All right, nice job, guys. Feedback and questions.
So out of curiosity, why did you guys go for an IR camera on the drone rather than some other form of camera? The next slide.
Right. That was suggested by ours.
Yeah, that was suggested by our sponsor.
So
I think it's for like very close proximity, just to validate that it is actually right in front of it, but and something to look into. But because ideally, it's getting the radar coordinates constantly transmitting from our ground system or from our ground system, and then just to eliminate noise. But
I guess that the radar is going to give you a vector, not a GPS coordinate. It's going to give you range, direction, and altitude, and it will send that information to the drone, which can then use it to vector in on the. So the reason why I point that out is you're concerned about how to jam things, and your countermeasure is going to be using radar-assisted guidance from the ground, not GPS, to find the drone. The drone can change frequency that it's operating on, that you guys don't, you can't control what the enemy drone is operating on. It can operate on any frequency, but you can jam GPS. And by jamming GPS always operates on the same frequency, but the drone doesn't have to. So the common denominator that you could eliminate would be the GPS. So if the enemy drone is flying via GPS guidance, you could maybe intercept it with that.
Process-wise, if you go back to your mission off campus quickly, I just want to point out that your key activities and your key resources, you're not interpreting those correctly. The things that you have put in there are part of your value proposition and how that's going to be enacted. But let's chat about what those two boxes mean.
I would just add a little bit onto that. I think you you did a great job at your introduction, Anna, and also each of you as you went through being engaged in this. I didn't hear like as much as I did from the other groups at this stage of your level of engagement with your with the people you're talking to and how that's guiding what you're doing, the decisions you're making. There were a few things here, like where you crossed out the and tracking and talked about specific reasoning for that. But I want to hear that connection a little bit more as you move forward.
So when you say jamming, one, is it going to be a concern that every time a drone flies by, you're going to shut down all the frequencies in the area with your device if you use jamming?
On whose end?
On our end, or I guess U.S. military sense.
Question. I mean, I guess it really depends what we end up going, like what we end up jamming, but they said they had a lot of leniency with what we do. And it wasn't really I mean, I guess from our end as far as like our countermeasure, possibly.
So like, we don't know if we can expect this to be like a constant threat. So if we implement something like this, is it going to be constantly disrupting that, or is it like a very rare?
All right, great job, guys. 1, 2, 3.